crap. Good evening, friends. I'd like to welcome you today to What's in Tegan's Storage Locker. It's the show that dares to ask the question, just what is in my storage locker? The answer is comics. It's pretty much always going to be comics. I grab a stack of comics, usually grab a stack of comics from the storage bin. We hash it out here for your pleasure on the YouTube screen. There's a little cat who likes to careen in and out of the proceedings. Unfortunately, setting up the video equipment today required moving him when he was comfortable. So, since I committed that sin, I'm sure I'm going to suffer for it somehow or another. And, you know, not without reason. He was laying on a blanket on a box. But the blanket in a box was on a table. And that's the table that I'm recording at right now. So there were always going to be problems with the setup. Anyway, let's start off today. Oh, hello. I was just talking about you. Are you getting up on that blanket now? Half this room is just set up with blankets so he can sit comfortably. Oh, my goodness. He's just sitting there. Let's keep it that way. All right. So, Batman and the Outsiders from 1985. Mike W. Barr and Alan Davis. Now, Batman and the Outsiders, what is there to say about Batman and the Outsiders? It maybe didn't have the best reputation. At the time, I think it sort of had the reputation for being sort of, very meat and potatoes superhero stuff. They wrote Batman out of the book for the last stretch of it because basically Danny O'Neill took over. And whether they've been planning on doing that or not, the fact is the new Batman coming out of the Crisis on Infinite Earths was just going to be someone who had less to do with the spandex superhero stuff. They even had to fight for him to be included in the Giffen and Dimity's Justice League at all. They didn't want him to be in those books, but they actually, beat the Bat Office at an internal wrangle once in a while, simply because he was such a central player to the team. But anyway, what is notable in hindsight? The reason why, if you see an issue of Batman and the Outsiders in the bin, in the discount bin or in the dollar bin, give it a shot, because it had two different artists, so two main different artists and a third who was the designated fill-in for a few issues. And the first was Jim Aparo, and the second was Alan Davis, and the guy who was pinch hitting was Trevor Von Eaton. Oh, hey, did you perk up there? So it looked good, even if, look, Metamorpho is cool. Everyone likes Metamorpho. Black Lightning, what is there? Great to see him somewhere. But if the price of having Metamorpho and Black Lightning on a book with a very classic-looking Bronze Age Batman, yellow circle, blue and gray, if the price for that was Geoforce, I don't know. That's a steep price to have to pay. And Katana, of course, she shows up actually more often than just about any of these guys. She sort of made it into the my perception of it, look on the outside looking in, is that she sort of made it into the outer orbit of the Bat people in a way that these characters didn't, because she does show up, I think, in the Batman books every once in a great while. All right, so they're taking on Cobra, who is not actually a giant snake. He's not actually a Paul Atreides creature here. He's just a normal dude, but this is a representation of the threat that he faces, that he holds for the heroes. If you don't know Cobra, how do I put this? If you know Cobra from G.I. Joe, It's that. Only without so much, he's sort of like if Cobra Commander were a little bit more like Serpentor. Basically, he's the head of a cult, and he thinks the world of himself. He's not the most interesting villain in the universe by any means. That's just fact of the matter there. All right. Oh, in this inside front cover has an ad for Nathaniel Dusk, which was this sort of detective story that I think there were a couple series, limited series in the early '80s. Don McGregor, so it had some word balloons, but it also had Gene Colan being uninked, if I recall correctly, as this ad tells us, come to life through new color techniques and full process separations. So that was just something that they were just able to do technologically, and you began to see it every now and again. It'd be this series had it as obviously a big part of the appeal, and now of course it's no big deal because every artist worth their salt has a decent scanner that they can scan their own pencils if they so choose. That wasn't the case back in 1984, 85. Yeah, October 85. So this is in the last stretch of the book before Batman takes off. This is right during the crisis, too, so everything is up in the air. Maybe there'll be I was going to say bullpen bulletins, but, oh yeah, in the back here. All right. They call it the Meanwhile page. All right, so this is an Alan Davis issue. Early Alan Davis in America. Alan Davis landed on his feet after this book because he started drawing Detective Comics, I believe, right after this. And he was drawing Detective Comics during Batman Year One, and it's the run has been completely overshadowed. But Alan Davis did a fair amount of Batman in the 80s. Very, very good-looking stuff, obviously, because, Alan Davis, even very young Alan Davis like this, was still, it's funny because it is still very recognizably Alan Davis, but it's just a little bit less bulletproof. You know how you look at an Alan Davis drawing and you think, well, that is just the perfect way to draw whatever it is that's in that panel. Alan Davis has figured out because that's just what he does. This is maybe just like half turn of the dial back, a little bit rough, but still, who's inking him here? Oh, he's inking himself. Interesting. John Workman doing the lettering, if that looks familiar. And Adrian Roy colors. So it had a quality creative team through its entire run. The Trevor Von Eden fill-ins are gorgeous. Some of the best Trevor Von Eden work of the period. And, Jim Aparo. Anything with Jim Aparo drawing Batman, he's my favorite Batman artist. So I like that he draws a very straight-laced Batman. I like that he can also draw, the kind of superhero-y Batman stuff. He's a very versatile Batman artist. All right, so Geoforce. Yeah. I'm not even joking. I genuinely find Geoforce to be just an absolutely boring character. Seeing him on a page just makes me want to walk away. And see these Cobra goons. It's just like Hydra meets Cobra. They wear a green costume. They're international terrorists. Although most of the Cobra actually wear blue army uniforms, if I'm recalling correctly. But you know what I mean. Oh man, remember when they had all these different Newtons? It's been forever since I've seen anything but the fig, but they used to have apple, cherry. I don't even remember the last time I saw blueberry Newtons. Man. Maybe they didn't last for long. I bought those in forever. Now I'm putting myself in the mind to go buy a package. Okay, and this is Cobra. See, he's like Serpentor through this big green cloak and orange cowl there. And this is Halo, who's been kidnapped and strapped to a, something or other. Halo and Looker are the two. Neither of them are good characters, and yet most of the book revolves around their shenanigans. That's all there is to say about the Outsiders. Halo did not go on to a successful career, and she didn't graduate to the Justice League. She's never been in the Titans or anything. And the less said about Looker, the better over public channels. Okay, so he's given you his background here. When I was an infant, I was snatched from the New Delhi maternity ward by a cult of Cobra worshippers. They believed me to be the one chosen to head their cult, and raised me as their leader and their god. See, that's not going to get you anywhere, fella. I mean, try putting that on your resume. It says here that you were the head of a snake cult? Well, we'll contact you. But, even early Alan Davis, this is still very nice, very nice. You can see him sort of, he's still got some burn in him. I mean, there's burn in his DNA, but it's still, up at the front here. Ironically being he's a much better draftsman than John Byrne. I don't think that's saying much, but the influence is still there. He developed into one of the best draftsmen in the industry. Just absolutely, just about anything he does, I'll get. So they're at a ball game between the Gotham Giants and the Metropolis Metros. So these Cobra goons disrupt Katana's trip to the, so I guess it's Jefferson and, Black Lightning and Rex, Metamorpho, and is that, that's Sapphire, okay. Yeah, that's, because she is being held hostage, that's right. All right, so they're fighting these goons. Oh, that's fun. That's fun. But the lady ain't laughing. All right, so they're fighting these guys, and they go after Sapphire because she's the only one who's not superpowered. But this is just a handful of terrorists. There's nothing that Black Lightning and Katana can't take care of. This was actually a pretty powerful team as far as those things are measured. But new town, a new member, and a new beginning. A proven bestseller now in deluxe format. DC Comics, a whole new universe awaits you. Yes, and that's Looker, who hasn't appeared in this yet. I don't know if she appears in this story, but she has the worst costume, just about, in at least the 80s. She's in the running. She's in the running for worst. So they're just fighting these... they did the whole cyanide teeth, so that they just have a heap of dead snake cult terrorists. And, oh, goodness. They're attacking Wayne Manor, so always a good idea if you're a terrorist. Attack Bruce Wayne. You'd think they would have figured out. Oh, and he knocks the hollow tooth out so he can actually get some, at least one of them. Oh, so they have him strapped down in the Batcave. Wait. You bring Sapphire Stag to the Batcave? That's a bad idea, Batman. Like, there's some people you don't want in your business, and though that family, that whole family, are just not people you need to be getting too involved with. Alfred, Miss Stagg is in your care. You should be safe down here. Ugh. She's not a very dependable person. I'm just saying. So there's something going on with a space launch. So he gave this military guy a water with will-deadening venom of my own concoction. Okay. I'm not even going to bother trying to figure out what you're up to, Cobra. You're not someone I care about. You haven't been thinking. Cobra learned our civilian identities. Well, I mean, come on, Batman. Like, just this issue, I have seen you make significant security risks yourself here, so maybe you shouldn't be throwing stones. Who edited this? It doesn't say. It'll say in the back. I don't think Denny O'Neil is anywhere near here by now. Oh, okay, so he's basically, know that I, Lord Cobra, now control your much vaunted Star Wars missile defense system. You have 24 hours to turn over to me the entire contents of Fort Knox, or I shall sell your system to Soviet Russia. Next issue, the story our legal department demanded we call War Stars. Okay, that got a chuckle out of me. Oh, the DC Challenge. You know, that's something I want to... I don't actually own a copy of that. I keep expecting I'm going to run across it in dollar bins, but I never have. It's something that I guess that no one wants to let go of. I'm sure that I'm just not looking. But it's not the kind of book you want to pay more than cover price for 35 years after the fact. This is a Troops, only 2 short weeks until The Outsiders #1 goes on sale across this great land of ours. It features not only the worth waiting for return of Outsiders co-creator Jim Aparo to the art chores, because he came back to the book for the launch of the second volume. It features not only 32 full pages of story and art on top quality Baxter paper and a terrific 3-page fold out, but a new member for The Outsiders as well. And if you don't live near a comic shop, lots of DC books are featuring a subscription ad. So it was one of a few books that were, they were, both Marvel and DC were experimenting with having more of their line available only through the direct market. And that, in hindsight, that really screwed me over, because I think I mentioned before, like, Power Pack was my favorite title very briefly in 1986. And I was a small child, and then suddenly it disappeared. One issue, they went direct only, and, the book kept going. It kept the book going for another 5 or 6 years to do that. But it was very confusing, and it was a reason why I didn't get into superheroes probably until much later. I was buying comic books for years and only sort of buying superheroes. And it was because books that I liked had a good habit of disappearing. This, Blue Devil, don't ask me why those were like the 2 DC books that I glommed onto. And what was the one? Oh, yeah. Power Pack went direct only. All right, I'm not recognizing any of these names in this. Here's an ad for the next volume of the series. Simon Stagg stops loving money, only a joke. Next issue, Batman and the Outsiders take to the streets of New York, then to the skies to stop Cobra's mad plan. They're congratulating themselves again over that War Stars joke. All right, it was worth one chuckle. I have a feeling you're going to milk it. You're going to milk it, aren't you? Oh, yeah, this was edited by Mike W. Barr. So this is really late into the era where they were letting writers edit. By the mid '80s, that was almost unheard of. That's a mid '70s thing. That's like mid '70s when no one's paying attention thing. Let's see here. So the Meanwhile pages, which I can't remember when they stopped, but essentially these were the DC version of the bullpen bulletins, although these Dick Giordano editorials ended up being like kind of strangely revealing. Like he put a lot of information in here, and you look back and sometimes it's weird to see stuff that, you know, he talks very frankly about, like things about Marvel. He took part of a column once to talk about why JLA Avengers never materialized. They had sort of a very grown-up feel compared to the bullpen bulletins, which were still sort of written in Stan's lingo. I'm just talking about like from the perspective of being a very small kid buying these books. DC books seem a little bit drier. And that's been true. That was true until the 2000s, when suddenly they really got a hair up there. You know what about it being true. So this is the lead up to Crisis, because Swamp Thing is just getting into its American Gothic storyline. Green Lantern 193, so they're building up to that. The whole, I think it's a better part of a year leading up to 200 was a rather involved saga. Warlords up to 98. Warlord lasted a long time. Warlord must have been a very consistent newsstand seller, because it survived in like 86, 87. Blue Devil, he's still around. This is during the run of the first Who's Who, which was a gorgeous series. Even if, as a kid, I didn't take to it quite as much because I preferred the, more buttoned-down aesthetic of the official handbook of the Marvel Universe. But in hindsight, you can look back and see, like, they put a lot of work into making Who's Who a very nice-looking comic book. New Teen Titans Infinity Incorporated. Oh, Talent Showcase. Talent Showcase, that's an interesting title. Interesting history to that. He's talking about the DC Challenge here. So, in case you didn't know, because we already mentioned it once, what the DC Challenge was a 12-issue series that was passed off between different creative teams. So it was basically one creative team sets up the story and it hands off a cliffhanger that the other team just has to solve with, I don't think, any input. It's just, they're passing it around like a round robin. They actually did something like that again a few years ago. I think they did a big Kirby anniversary project at DC. And I want to say they did that. That was the CamND challenge. It was a CamND story. I only have a couple issues of it, though, because it came out when I was not buying new comics, so I've been picking it up here and there when I come across it. All right, so how about an issue of Alpha Flight? And not just any issue of Alpha Flight, because this is from 88. This is from the Jim Lee Alpha Flight. Yes, I never paid more than like a quarter for any issue of Alpha Flight. And I own most of the first run of Alpha Flight. And that includes the Jim Lee issues. Maybe the Jim Lee issues are worth a few more pennies today. But no one was reading, and to be fair, no one is still reading Alpha Flight. But even as far to look for the Jim Lee issues. And this is, I want to say, later towards the Jim Lee run, because it wasn't too long after this that he gets poached for Punisher, and he does first year and a half of the Punisher War Journal, and that is as good as the Punisher has ever looked. I looked at, I think, only one issue of the Jim Lee War Journal on the TikTok. I have a few more issues. I don't have the whole run by any means, but it was a gorgeous book from first to last. Definitely, if you can stomach the Punisher, it is some of the nicest looking Punisher comics that have ever existed. And this is the series that got him the Punisher that got him the Punisher gig, which got him the X-Men gig. He's being inked by solid Al Milgrom here. Al Milgrom is, I think, a good inker for pretty much anyone because he's very much a jack of all trades. He can do fine line, he can do big, chunky spotted blacks. His own work as a cartoonist might give you the idea that he's not very versatile with a brush, but he is a very versatile inker, and he does a lot of. Already, you can see Jim Lee is getting into some fine line territory that's really going to blossom, on X-Men when he meets up with Scott Williams, and suddenly that's the look for 2/3 of the industry. But even as far back as this, he was still doing a lot of detail work. Although, interestingly enough, he's inked by Klaus Janson some on Punisher, and you wouldn't think that would be a productive matchup, and yet I think it's maybe the nicest looking comics Jim Lee has ever done when he's being inked by Klaus Janson. And you wouldn't think it, considering Klaus Janson is a far cry from Scott Williams, two very different inkers, and yet, the proof is in the pudding. All right, so this was 1988, issue 62. Bill Mantlo was still writing. Bill Mantlo had a good long run on Alpha Flight after Byrne left. Jim Lee penciled, Al Milgrom inker, Janice Chang on letterer, and Bob Sharon coloring on what was, this was $1.25 in 1988. So it was a little bit more expensive, and it was on slightly nicer paper, and that meant that you had richer colors. So it was a nice looking book, even given its B list. I don't know, like C plus list. I don't know. Alpha Flight lasted a long time without really being, I think, anyone's like super favorite, and yet. It was just good enough. And I've read the whole run of it, and it wasn't an unpleasurable experience, even if it wasn't all that pleasurable. It was just, it was there. This is towards the end, the part of the book where a lot of the original cast is maybe either shuffled off entirely or they're being cycled in and out for various plot lines. Because they moved on to another set of characters, and this one focuses on the Purple Girl, who is the daughter of the Daredevil and Jessica Jones villain, Zebediah Kilgrave, the Purple Man. And this is actually following up on the events of the Emperor Doom graphic novel, which was, I want to say, Bob Hall and David Michelini. It's actually a very, very good book because it is the setup, the plot is essentially one day Dr. Doom wakes up and he comes up with a foolproof plan to conquer the world, and he does. Like, that's it. That's the first part of the book, is him conquering the world. And the way he does it is he hooks up with this guy, the Purple Man, who we're seeing rise up from the grave here, because he dies at the end of Emperor Doom, which is sort of given away right here. But he basically just pumps this guy's ability out to, cover the entire biosphere and gets everyone to do what he wants, and he wins. And it's up to Wonder Man to save the day. And it's actually a really good Wonder Man story. You think like, wow, if there's one guy left against Dr. Doom, is it going to be Wonder Man? And this story makes it work. Definitely highly recommended. If you don't have any respect for Wonder Man, especially, because he's not a bad character. He just has a reputation for being, kind of generic. And it's, this is the last... in the last passage in Emperor Doom, when Submariner just, kills the Purple Man while he's, smashing Doom's machine. And so he dies, and he is coming up from the grave. I died, yet all who hated me still live. My enemies, my wife, my daughter, whose insipid summons somehow raises me from my rest. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's why he ends up getting up, because his daughter asks him to. You want me, child? Very well, then you shall have me. I and all my friends. So he's basically been raised from the ground like a zombie by his daughter's versions of his daughter. His daughter has the same powers as him, and now he apparently has the power to raise zombies from the earth as well. Oh man, that is a nice spread. Nice spread. Oh, and there she is. She wakes up. She wakes up screaming because she has a bad dream. Bad dream about my daddy. I forget what this goblin creature's deal is. It's been a long time since I read this comic book the first time around, so I don't always, like I say, I read all these comic books, and Alpha Flight, there's just something about it that does not stick in my brain. So something or other with, she's a kid. She's young, I think, still, when this is going on. And there's the rest of the team. There's Box. I think she's going by Vindicator. Sasquatch when he's in his white Yeti form. Purple Girl who's not dressed for the cold at all. And I want to say that's Mannequin, who... See, I'm not remembering. It's because Sasquatch was Snowbird. She could have a Sasquatch form now. I guess Walter is now Wanda. So, oh man, I don't remember any of this. This is whatever. I'm not going to get upset over not remembering what was going on in Alpha Flight. It's been like 25 years since I've read this comic book at least. Alpha's broke. The vultures of the Fourth Estate. You want a comment? I'll give you a comment. Leave us alone. Leave him alone. You heard the lady, Mannequin. Let your past and future selves emerge to lend a hand. Now that sounds like really psychedelic, but this Mannequin guy who, he actually came up before in the episode where we looked at the issue of the official handbook of the Marvel Universe 89 update. His power, which when I was a very small child I thought was really cool, he can summon future and past versions of himself on the evolutionary scale, which means this giant amoeba from the far past, a caveman, and a future guy. And so that's actually extraordinarily powerful. But he never does anything. ever at all. I don't think anyone. He's very much a Bill Mantlo character. And that can be a good thing, and that can be an interesting thing. He had a thing for really elaborate fantasy scenarios that other, like with Rocket Raccoon, you can see, like if you go back and read the original Rocket Raccoon stories, they are very difficult to parse. Straight up, that is just a weird series with a very complex premise. And so is Micronauts. I've always found and I've read a fair amount of Micronauts at this point, and I've always found it rather opaque because the premise is a real humdinger. And that's just sort of how Bob Mantlo, conceived of stories. Really complicated premises. And then he spends the rest of the story sort of, exploring it, and it makes sense once you get into it. But, there's a reason why all of the Rocket Raccoon origins have spent time trying to fix how elaborate the first Rocket Raccoon origin was. She's got a little onk pin and a U2 button. Oh, and here's her. Oh, her mother's still alive. Wasn't I didn't even remember that. Wasn't killed by her ex-husband, but now she's got a letter saying he's dead, and she's pretty happy with that. If anyone evil could survive the grave, your father could. All right. Oh, and there we go. Don't usually see Jim Lee doing a lot of horror type stuff, so this is kind of interesting. Shambling zombies aren't really his forte. And yet here we go. It can only be your father. Maybe being dead, he can't command the living. Well, that's actually, see, that's actually not that uninteresting, so to speak. Coming back from the dead, but only being able to control the dead. But I don't think anyone ever followed up on that. I don't think anyone used this version of the character again. I hate those whom I cannot command. Well, see, that's why he's such a truly scary villain. And, I can nitpick and say, they should have made his skin purple. But the TV show, when they did Jessica Jones, that was a really, really effective portrait of that villain. One of the best villains in any of these superhero stuff. Just the most evil man you can possibly imagine. And his daughter, although I don't remember if she ever lapsed into villainy, I'll be honest with you. I can't remember at this point. I can't remember if she ever had a lapse back into villainy, but she was, for the most part, I think, just trying to be a relatively normal person, other than the fact that she had, purple skin. Hate living, those who made me die want to make living dead like me. Like, they should do another Marvel Zombie series with him as the bad guy. Although I think they brought him back. They brought him back, haven't they? I don't even remember. Your act's getting stale, Daddy. You need something to spark it back to life. Oh, nice. Nice. So they blow him up, and then he sets on fire, and then he crumbles. That's still a rough thing to say. Oh, and then here's the last pages. Seeing what Talisman's up to. She's doing she's an archaeologist? Huh. Yeah, you'd think I'd remember, but... All right, so Bullpen Bullets was the last. Do we have a... Oh, yeah, we got 2 pages. 2 pages of letters. Any recognize any of these names? I don't recognize any of these names. Every once in a while, you find something fun. You find an Olav Beamer. Although I don't know if Olav Beamer was writing an Alpha Flight. Because it was a direct market book at the time. They didn't have any ads, just some company ads as they were launching Excalibur. This issue, which is about a dog fight, but it's not drawn by Jim Lee. So if you're hoping to get a Jim Lee drawn dog fight, I'm sorry. If you're thinking about getting bounced around, if you're getting bounced around by life's little problems, Speedball, The Masked Marvel by Steve Ditko, Roger Stern, Jackson Geiss. That's a nice creative team. All right, so back to this bullpen bulletin real quick here. Bobby Chase, she went on to edit just about everything I really liked in the 90s, it seems like. She edited Nth Man, Steel Town Rockers, both of which I've read in their entirety on the TikTok, and there are story compilations of them if you cruise down on this channel. Hypeline. This is the month the madness and the mayhem of the Evolutionary War. Our cross-annual super saga begins. On sale now are the first 3 of our 11 64-page extravaganzas: X Factor Annual 3, Punisher Annual 1, and Silver Surfer Annual 1, each of which boasts a frenetic main feature that can be read all by itself or as part of the ongoing epic, plus a passel of co-features and pinups. Oh, the best annuals. Some of your favorite titles will be twice as exciting because they're getting them twice a month. Amazing Spider-Man, Uncanny X-Men, and G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe went bi-weekly in 1988. Speaking of bi-weekly schedule, we're really proud to announce the publication of Marvel Comics Presents, which will feature the greatest, most popular character in the Marvel Universe and will be on sale every 14 days. You'll hate yourself forever if you miss the first issue, which stars Wolverine, Shang-Chi, the Master of Kung Fu, the Man-Thing, and the Silver Surfer, twice a month for twice the fun. And that Man-Thing is the return of Steve Gerber to the character. And the Wolverine is Chris Claremont and John Buscema. So, Marvel Comics Presents, especially the early run, had some good stuff in it. All right, let's see what we got going. Okay, I got one. Let's read an issue of The Darkness. Yes, I know, I spent enough time talking about Top Cow over with Claire on Udder Madness. I'm putting a card up for it on the screen right now. But I just didn't want the show to get bogged down with just Marvel or DC, so we got to stick something else in there. So this is from after the first stretch. Mark Silvestri's gone. Garth Ennis is long gone. So it's being written by Malachi Coney, penciled by Clarence Lansing, and David Finch does a few pages too. This is right when David Finch was starting to come up in the studio. Joe Benitez doing the cover here, inked by Weems, Joe Weems, that's it. So Joe Benitez and Joe Weems. 4 different inkers: Victor Lamas, Jonathan Sabal, Livesay, and Andy Owens. Very late 90s design and typography there. All right, so I'm assuming that's waitress Jenny, who ends up with some sort of problem or another. This is further than I've read in the series recently, so I don't remember anything that's going on in this. All right, a killing moon hangs like a sickle in the sky above the town of Wormwood. Uh-oh. They look kind of like, but I don't think they are Darklings. Leave me alone, you bastards. So she's being hunted by weird little gremlin dudes. And she's long gone. She leaves the book the first time around in the first year or so at some point. But apparently she's being chased by something, so she calls the guy who's going to drop everything to come and help her. So they find her, and then they get her. Uh-oh, rising stars. Hide your daughters. One of these days, I'm going to have to go back and try to read this again. I tried to read it. I got a little bit excited because the writer's reputation is supposed to be a little bit... they were hyping it like it was going to be a big deal, and it did not end up being a big deal. It was definitely someone's first comic book. But, in hindsight, he has written many comic books since then, so I'm looking forward, at least as far as that goes, to see where he started, because I remember I bounced off it really hard. I think I bought the first 3 or 4 issues and just, that was that. Oh, so we got mobs. Oh, and here we go. One of the little Darklings is showing us his bottom. That's just charming. I want to say that I bought this off the newsstand because Image books, when you bought them off the newsstand, they were printed on a more of a newsprint type. They didn't do the shiny paper for the newsstand. I don't understand why, but it was true for The Darkness and Witchblade and Spawn. And I still bought a lot of comics at the newsstand way up through the 90s. So You know, they just, they didn't love us. What can I say? It's, you know, no real different. It doesn't shine quite as bad. I don't think it really makes that much of a difference. Oh boy, and he's talking about what good old Jackie. Now this is what I call quality time. What'll it be? Once Upon a Time in New York or Julie Strain's workout video. This DVD, oh my God, this is just foul. That is the joy. That is the joy of the darkness, is you get to sit and watch a man like get excited over pornography. That happens so often in this. So he's picks up his answering machine finally. He gets Jenny's call, and so he's like, yep, we're going to, just like I said, he's going to drop everything, because if there's one person on this planet Jackie Estacado cares about, it's the girl from the orphanage. Oh, and here's Butcher, the guy who cleans up all the mob's messes here. The series, real Garth Ennis touch, this guy right here. So, happy birthday, Potato. So, it's a small town, and he's not the guy that you want to go, like, undercover in a small town. He's gonna, just walking around, dressed like a New Yorker, he's going to draw attention wherever he goes. The cops are about to beat some guy up, and I'm guessing, there we go. So he's stepping up to, this is a guy wearing a fez, so Turkish or something that these cops don't like, and you know, he may be a sociopathic stone killer, but he's no bigot, so and the truth shall set you free. Now, I don't remember what was going on in this book at the time either. But that's a nice striking ad. Randy Green was drawing it at that point. I remember not having any problems with, but I don't think Claire likes him very much, so I guess we're just going to find that out one of these days here. All right. So he basically just goes to town beating these cops up. Oh, he just rips that guy's head off. Because neither of you strike me as particularly nice people, and for that I'm going to give you a hideous death. There you go. There's nothing worse than a crooked cop. It demolishes my faith in the system. Well, you know, if the mob hitman is calling your bluff. He has a very Spawn-like attitude towards these type of situations. That's something you can definitely see Spawn doing, you know, rolling through small towns and just cleaning out all the crooked cops, because he did it for often enough. Very Old Testament. Something, a long exposition featuring Native American tribes of some kind. Welcome to the town without a soul, Jackie Estacado. Welcome to Crowtown. Welcome to Wormwood. Welcome to the place where the end of the world begins. I'm sure you're being too dramatic. That's something. So we didn't get to see any more of bartender, not waitress, bartender Jenny. Man, that probably makes a good living, especially if you're tending bar in like joints that you know are frequented by organized crime figures. She was probably pulling down a lot of money in that job, and she just walked away from it. When the sun sets in Wormwood, all that is left is evil and darkness. Let's see. Wow, that is a really odd... that is just a really odd type for that letters page. Who's doing that one? That's Sonia M. is editing that, so that's an interesting font choice. Top Cow. Oh, the Top Cow newsletter. Let's see what we got here. Ad for Ascension, which I'm going to read one of these days. It seems to have really left a mark on Claire. Oh, the Fathom swimsuit special. We're going to have to do an episode just on the swimsuit specials at some point. I'm sure that there's enough of them. Featuring art by Michael Turner, Mark Silvestri, Joe Benitez, Adam Polina, Randy Green, Will Spertasio, Q Cha, David Finch, J. Scott Campbell, Jay Lee. That's not a bad lineup. All your Top Cow regulars and some ringers in there. Is the Messiah salvation or doom? Well, having read Spirit of the Tao, the answer to that is doom. The answer to everything in Spirit of the Tao is doom. Everyone dies at the end of that book. I'm not spoiling anything because you're not going to go and read it. You're going to go and listen to our podcast on it where we talk about it and we talk about the ending at length. Oh, the Aspen Matthews Super Rare Transparent Variant. Michael Turner, Claiborne Moore. Coming to you in partnership with Top Cow and More Action Collectibles. The only way to obtain this elusive figure is to rush out to your local comic book retailer before they're gone. I'm Super Rare. War. I mean, that's what that series was about, was just teasing war between these underwater peoples. Tales of the Witchblade. 7. Michael Turner, Bill O'Neill, and Q Cha. Oh, so Michael Turner wrote that arc. Interesting. Interesting. I don't think I've read that one. I don't have a whole run of that by any means. Okay. Oh, and this is the big turning point. We're gonna probably do a whole episode just on this at some point because this is a big turning point in his character. Apparently teaming up with Batman in story is an impressive thing for him. And I mean, yeah, for most guys, if you got to hang out with Batman for an hour, that'd probably be pretty cool. With Scott Lobdell and Jeff Loeb and David Finch. So you have some really good artists, and then you have you have words. All right, what do we got? We got enough time for one more. Give me something interesting. Okay, let's read another issue of Streets of Poison since I slipped it in the pile there. Because this is even if this is a rather infamous story, it is a very nice looking story. And it if you take the time to sit down and read it, it zooms right along. For being a rather absurd story, it really goes. Mark Grunwald writing, Ron Lim, Danny Belinati. This is right after the building's been exploded, and his van driver is like, yeah, Peggy, the cap just got blown up in a building. So Diamondback gets the call, and she comes just in time to see John Jameson say, like, oh yeah, he might have died in that. Except, oh, he's not dead. Oh, and suddenly he's a bit more bold. Did he just do what I thought he did? because he's usually not so forward as to actually kiss a woman. Cap, you feeling okay? Oh my God. How do you get out there? Well, and we see he gets blown up and then he just out. Basically, he runs for the window the moment he sees the guy pull the detonator out, and he jumps out of the window with his shield. Let's go. I'm in dire need of a shower. Don't you want the paramedics to give you a quick once-over, check for smoke inhalation and such? Not necessary, John. I've never felt better in my life. Yes. Oh, man, that's a nice-looking kingpin right there. Yeah, this was basically like the gimmick here was 6 issues of putting Captain America in the middle of a Daredevil setup, which is basically just that he gets drawn into the drug trade and he ends up fighting Bullseye. And I don't think Typhoid Mary's in it more, but he breaks out of jail. And like I say, I want to say this is him first time out of jail since Daredevil 200, I want to say. That would have been. Although, don't quote me on that. But he comes out of jail to fight Captain America. The whole point of him, the Kingpin hiring Typhoid, was that he was up in jail. And so she's not impressed. So that's the famous Bullseye. What will you do with him? I'll think of something. So... what's going on here? Is that... someone's running a van full of explosives into a building, and here he's back in his costume, and he's got his teeth fixed. I need to know 2 things. Who is bringing illegal drugs into my city without my knowledge, and who attacked one of my supply houses? No offense, Mr. Fisk, but do I look like Columbo? I'm not an investigator. Take the job or remove yourself. Well, I mean, you spent some time in jail. He's probably getting you off to a soft start, considering you were never the most trustworthy person, Bullseye. I mean, you have to acknowledge that that's not your rep. Trustworthy, not you. And see, there's Black Widow. Black Widow showed up, with Captain America once in a while, but she was definitely more of a Daredevil supporting character, I think, at this point. She was still showing up in Daredevil periodically. She doesn't show up in Daredevil that often too much anymore. But she showed up a couple times in the Nascenta years. You never showed me how to pilot this thing. He just jumps off, leaves her to almost die on this sky cycle. Uh-oh. Black Widow jumps up and kicks her. And sorry, I like Diamondback. I really like Diamondback. I wish that they used her more, but she's not going to win in a fight against the Black Widow. She's just not. She has these little expensive throwing darts, and that's the Black Widow. Although this is no one's favorite Black Widow costume, although there would be worse Black Widow costumes as the decade wore on. Ooh, look at this page. The way he's blending Bullseye's costume in with the shadows here. I think this is the first time these two have ever met. So that would have been a big deal. Now get out there. Not until you tell me what you did with the captain. Well, he actually jumped off himself. And they're going to land in the drink. Splooch. Uh-oh. Yeah, see, he's not in his right mind, so Bullseye's picked a good day to come a-calling, so to speak. Oh, and here we are back up with U.S. Agent and Battlestar reuniting after their very traumatic experience together as Captain America and Battlestar. He's still, if you recall when I was yakking around this the last time, he's still recovering from basically being brainwashed by the government and undergoing a traumatic experience while he was Captain America. And he's very powerful. That's the thing, is he's a lot stronger than Captain America. He actually has genuine superhuman strength. He's more or less about as strong as like Spider-Man or someone like that. So he's a very dangerous man. And he's also not in his right mind, really. And the other members of the Avengers West Coast show up. They're like, "What are you doing?" You're like, "Smashing up the yard." So yeah, he's like, "Yeah, you wanna fight me? I'm just going to leave." And yeah, the backups running through this storyline in Captain America were Battlestar, and I think he's taking on the Power Broker. I want to say that's where this is going. It's been years since I read this. Power Broker being the guy who got them their superpowers. Don't recognize any of these names in the letters page. There was a bullpen bonds here. Anything interesting? Yeah, I think we maybe have looked at this one recently, talking about Peter David's novels. Oh yeah, because Peter David landed on the New York Times bestseller list with one of his Star Trek: The Next Generation novels, and they're plugging it. The Marvel is plugging it, even though Star Trek was published by DC. The tight end of the San Francisco 49ers, circa 1990, Jamie Williams is a huge Marvel fan. Before a game, Jamie psychs himself up by imagining that he's Spider-Man. Man, you could not get that out of me with pliers. And here's another. Jim Starlin wrote a book called Among Madmen, and they're boosting it there. Hope you caught Stan Lee's recent appearance on the syndicated entertainment this week. Stan talked about Marvel's upcoming movie and TV projects. Oh boy, lots of stuff that I'm certain materialized. In other TV news, our very own Jerry Conway, Web of Spider-Man and Spectacular Spider-Man, recently sold his first script to TV. It was an episode of the Father Dowling Mysteries. Jerry's now an active member of the Father Dowling family with several more scripts on the way. Regrettably, Jerry's new career meant he had to change his plans to take over the writing of the Punisher comic. Oh, so we could have had a Jerry Conway run on the Punisher? Oh, well, he quit writing comics, basically, more or less, I think entirely for a while, because he was pulling in some of that TV money. And if you were pulling in that TV money, you would probably not think it was worth your time to write Spider-Man either. All right. Anything interesting here? Well, lots of interesting things. Camp Candy #4. John Candy cartoon had a comic book. Elsewhere Prince, Mobius. Alf 32. Well, I think that's about it. We had fun. We laughed. We learned all that good stuff. Let's see here. Check out the rest of my site. I have enough videos. I just put up a video the other day with me spending an hour talking about Frank Miller. So that's a fun one if you haven't read it. I got a lot of videos, and the algorithm finally seems to be picking them up a little bit. So, if you like what you see, check out my Patreon if you want to support me, if you want me to make more videos. That is how you show your appreciation. There's tons of stuff for you to download there. I have years worth of writing up there, many years worth of writing for you to download. I do daily comic book reviews. They're posted to TikTok and Instagram both, and I put the anthologies of the older stories on here. Right now, every Friday, we're reading Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck. We're in the middle of reading the first Damage Control series on Saturday, and the Eddie Campbell, Sean Phillips Hellblazer on Sunday. So it's basically just me reading really good comic books for your pleasure and edification. I think I mentioned it earlier, but I have a podcast with Claire Napier. It's called Udder Madness. We talk about all things Top Cow comics. So, Mark Silvestri, Michael Turner, The Darkness, Witchblade, Cyberforce, all that good stuff. We're on Spotify. We're on Patreon. We're even on YouTube. When I finally finish, we'll have a new video annotations up here pretty quick here. What else? Those are available on YouTube. Probably just a click or two away at this very moment. I think I already mentioned you should go to my Patreon. If you want to encourage me, if you don't want to encourage me, you can still go. Have a great day. I'm usually available every week or so on the Comics Journal. I took the last, month or so off, and I'm going to get back in the saddle here beginning next week from where I'm talking right now. So you should find something for me up there if you go looking. Have a wonderful day. Treat yourself well. Treat other people well. Treat children and small animals well. And just have a wonderful day, please.